anytime that you put together a pivot table, it's pretty much giving you all of the data for your entire database. So when you base a pivot on like what you see here, right initially off the top, you're getting all of the data displayed. Now, what we want to do from time to time is kind of scale back that amount of data, focusing on various items. There could be maybe focus on a particular country or a group of countries, focus on a particular rep, product, whatever it happens to be, but kind of narrow it down a little bit, even narrowing it down by year even, all right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a pivot table, and I'm going to show you the 4 different kinds of filters that we can kind of use on it, all right? And hopefully by the time I get done with showing you that, you'll have a really good idea of how to work this and be able to apply that to your own pivot tables. So let's go ahead and create our first pivot table here. So we'll click on to insert here. We'll go to pivot table. We'll go ahead to OK here, and there we go. So we'll start out with a general layout where we're maybe looking at all the different countries that we sell to, and maybe the different categories we sell into to see what kind of numbers we have. So what we'll do first of all is we'll find the country field here. We'll kind of put that along the side here on the rows. And then for the categories, we'll put that along the top here, just like that. And then we will do the total sale, which will be the revenue. So there we go on that. Now we can kind of jazz it up a little bit here, kind of format a little bit so we can read it better. So if we do a right click on any one of the numbers, go to value field settings, go over here to number format, number, and then we can do the comma separator, no decimal places, all right, and hit OK. And the other thing we can do is go back over into the design tab here, go into the table styles, maybe go ahead with this rust orange here, and give it the banded rows and banded columns look. So almost looks like a spreadsheet in a way, but pretty focused on our countries and then the categories that we're selling into. Now, what's missing from this is that, or what we want to have missing from here, let's say that much with it, are the countries. Now we have all of our countries listed in here. If we wanted to kind of focus in on a certain number of countries, as well as maybe a certain number of categories, what would we do? How would we make that happen? Well, you have to figure that we're using the country field. That's what we have here. The category field is what's giving us this here. And each of these individual names in here are what we call items. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the item filter, built within the pivot here, to focus in on certain items in each of those fields. So we're going to go over here to the row labels, this little drop down arrow right there, click on to the select all, because that will deselect all the countries, and then we can go in here and we can pick the countries that we want. So let's just say we want to go with Argentina, we want Brazil, let's say we want a few more here. We'll go with, let's say, France, and we'll go with Kenya, Spain, the UK, and Zambia. So we got all those in there. Now, we pick those, we hit OK, and there we go. So now we've really narrowed that down quite a bit. The other thing we want to do is we want to focus it on certain categories. So we'll click on the category filter, or the column filter. Just click onto that, and hit the select all, and then pick the items that we want. So let's say we want to go with beverages, confections, some grains, and then produce and seafood. And we hit OK on that. That narrows it down quite a bit. Now, there's no need for your audience to know what you filtered by, because they can see what they see, and what they're seeing are the countries and the categories that you want them to see. So they don't have to wonder what they're looking at. They can actually see it right there. Now, to clear out these filters, all you'd have to do is go back to the filter button, click onto it, and tell it that you want to clear the filter from country in that case. And then for the columns, we can click that one as well. And this will be clear filter from category, and that brings them all back. Now I'm going to add one more field to the rows area that's kind of related to country, and that would be the zone, all right, or the territory. So in this case, I find my zone field here, drag it above country, let go, and that brings that one in there for me. So now I can see each of my territories or zones, and then I can see within that the country. So it gives me a little bit more information, a little bit more detailed information. Now, let's go back to the filter now for the rows. Now, the filter button we have here works for the rows, but you have to understand we have now two different fields. So how is it going to know which field you want to filter the items on? Well, what you do is you make sure you click on to one or the other item. So in other words, if you're looking at narrowing down the zones, then you would click on one of the zones. If you did that, hit the drop down, then you're going to see all your zones here to choose from, right? On the other hand, if you click on one of the countries and hit the drop down arrow, then you'll see all of your countries. So that's how you're able to go back and forth. I've had a lot of my students will tell me that they have really been kind of mesmerized by this because they don't know that that's happening, and they'll happen to be on this one here, and then they're saying, well, I don't see the countries that I can pick from. Or they might click onto here and they'll say, well, I don't see the zones or the territories, using their own data. And they weren't aware that the filter, the way it knows which field to filter on would be you being on one of the items of that field, and that's how it knows how to do that. So let's say that we want to narrow it down to, let's say, 3 different zones, all right? So that means we click onto one of the zones, you click the drop down arrow, hit your select all, and then you'll say, okay, I want Africa, I want Asia, and I want the Nordic. So those 3. So you choose those 3, we hit OK, and there it goes. What a great little tool there. So that's how that works. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll clear this out. Nope. Click that and clear the filter. There we go. Okay. So now we're back to seeing everything. Now, I want to go a step further with this type of filter. I want to focus in on the countries, which are what you see along here, the countries where their total or their grand total is maybe greater than 10 million. In other words, when we look at these numbers over here, I only want those countries where it's greater than 10 million. All right? So what we'll do is you'll click on any one of the countries, no matter which one it is, go back to the drop-down arrow, go to the value filters, tell that we want greater than or equal to, all right? And we can type in something like 10 million, just like that. Hit OK, and there you go. So all you see now are those countries that have sales overall greater than 10 million. So that's pretty neat. And then later on, if you want to clear that out, we would just click anywhere in there, hit the drop-down arrow, tell it to clear the filter from country, and now we're back to square one again. Now that'll work the same way on our column totals as well. Now, in this case, what we want to do is we want to see only those that are greater than, let's say, $30 million. So only those categories where the total is greater than 30 million. So what we would do is we would click anywhere. Well, it really doesn't matter where you're at here because we only have one field. So we just click onto here, all right? Go to your value field, greater than or equal to, and over here we'll type in 30 million, just like that. Hit OK, and there we go. So you look down below here, everything exceeds 30 million. You want to clear it, we just go back in there again, click on the clear filter from category, and now they're back. Let's say now we want to see the top 5 countries based on what we have here on column J, the top 5 only. Clear everything else, or hide everything else. So what we'll do is we'll click on any one of the countries. Any one of the countries there. Hit the drop down arrow, value filters, go down to where it says top 10. All right. And here we'll say the top, we'll leave it as top. You can either do top or bottom. So you can do like a bottom 5 if you wanted to, but we're going to do the top 10, or top 5, I'm sorry. From 10, we're going to bring it down to 5. Items, all right? We hit OK. Well, that didn't work out really good because I've got, I said I wanted the top 5 each of the groups, and I've got 5 in there. Right, so it's not at max, so that's not going to work good. I need to change that down a little bit. So let's go back in there again. Sorry about that. Go back into the value fields or filters here, and there go down my top 10. And let's just say I want to see the top 3. Okay, so the top 3 items in each of these groups here. So I do that, hit OK, and there we go. So there's the top 3. That's pretty neat. So you can see what that is. That's a good little situation there. We don't have them sorted. I mean, if you wanted to have them sorted, you can actually go to any one of these over here. You can just do a right click on it and tell it that you want to sort it in, let's say, largest to smallest, and that will rearrange it. But still, we get that in there. So not bad. Now, if you wanted to clear out that filter, we just go back, hit the drop down. Go back to our value filter, go back to the top 10, and we got to make sure also that we're on, remember we have to be on it, so we go on one of them, go back to the filter, clear the filter from country, and that'll go back to what we had. Now, if we wanted to see the top 2 zones or territories, then what we do is we just click on any one of the zones, all right? Hit the drop down, go to our value filter, go to our top 10, and just tell it we want to do the top 2. So bring that down to 2. So the top 2 items, all right? Hit OK, and there we go. Then again, if we want to clear that filter, go back in there, and then just click onto the clear filter from zone, and there we are. Okay. Now there's another thing we can do that really is, I don't know how useful it is, but you might find it to be that way. If I were to click on to one of the items in here, and I can do a filter that says, let me just see the letter, only those countries that start with the letter C, let's say, right? So you can click on this little drop down, label filters, begins with the letter C, all right? Hit OK, and there we go. All right, so if you think that might be of use, go ahead, that's great. Otherwise, forget about it. All right, so I want to go clear that. I'll just click back onto one of them there, go back to my filter, clear the filter, that'll bring them all back. Now, the next filter I want to talk about is the pivot table filter. That's what we see over here. And what you're looking at right now are the numbers for the 5 or so years of transactions. In other words, when we look at all our sales transactions, are ranging in many different years. So the actual numbers that you're looking at, let's say USA for beverages, that number right there is representing like 5 years worth the USA beverage sales. So that's letting you know what USA beverage sales are for all 5 years totaled up. We want to kind of focus in on that a little bit more and just look at maybe a particular year or whatever. So to do that, what we might want to do is put the order date filter in here to get the years eventually, And that way then you'll see that filter pop up at the top here, and we can hit the drop down and pick whatever year we want. Now, the problem initially with this is that when you take the order date and just kind of drop it into filters, just like that, well then when you click onto the drop down arrow to let's say pick a year, let's say you're hoping, you don't get years, but you get every conceivable date that's in there. So I might say, oh, I guess I'll click on this one right here. Hit OK. That's showing you the sales for that specific day. Okay. I don't think that that would be very useful. Maybe it would be, I don't know, but it's not what we're looking to do. So we're just going to kind of pull that out for now. So the problem with that, obviously, is what you saw there. How do we get it so where it just shows the years, like 2022, 2023, and so forth? How would we do that? Well, what we have to do is bring that field into the pivot itself. So I'm just going to kind of put it at the bottom of the two fields that we already have. I let go on that, you'll see this. Now that, what happens is then it ends up doing this, where it gives us the years, the quarters, and the order date. All right. Now I'm just going to tell you this. That's broken down. That's perfect. That's what we want. But I'll just tell you this. Sometimes it doesn't come in like that. Sometimes what will happen is you'll just end up seeing every day listed. It might be going by maybe weekly or something like that. What you're going to have to do, if this doesn't show up the way you see it here, is to click on to any one of the dates, or let's say the years, go over to the Analyze, go to where it says Group Field, all right, and turn on the months, the quarters, and the years, get them all selected. And by doing that and hitting OK, then you'll end up getting something like this, all right? Well, while we're here, I'm really not looking to have the list giving me you know, months and quarters and years. Or maybe I would, I don't know. Let's just say we do. We'll just leave it this way. So we leave it, we do it like that. We hit OK. So there it all is, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this field, the years field, put up in the filters, all right? Take the quarters, put that underneath it, and then take the order date, which is actually the months, and do that. Perfect. So now we've got years, quarters, and just the months. Now, at that point, then what do you do? Well, then what you can do is you can go here and you can say, okay, right now, these are numbers for all the years. Hit the drop-down arrow here. Now look at that. We have the yearly breakdown. So let's say we want to see 2025. So we click onto that, hit OK. There's 2025. Perfect. Now, if you wanted to go further and say, I just want to see 2025 first quarter, then you can click onto here and choose quarter one, hit OK, and there it is. And anybody looking at this is gonna know it to be 2025 first quarter, because they see that up here. So what they see down there is the data for that time period. If I were to take off the quarter, or click onto it and hit Alt to turn it off, that way it will show everything, and then go to the order date, then I can say, just give me, let's say, January and February. Well, I'm sorry, just January. So I click on that, and now there's January's numbers. Pretty cool. So in this case, when you're looking at somebody looking at this, they're going to say, okay, I know that to be the year 2025, January. Now there's other fields that are, I think, important that we can add to this. What we can do is maybe bring in the rep field. So we take the rep, drag that underneath the order date. So there's the rep. I can go through and I can say, well, how about maybe the vendor? That'd be kind of interesting. So we'll go and we'll bring vendor underneath rep. There we go. So now, having all those in there, let's say I go back to the order date here. I'll clear that out. I'll just say, I'll go back to all. There it goes on that one. So now, as I'm looking at this, I can say, give me the year 2025, but focus in on Adams, right, the rep. hit OK on that one. Now this is Adam's sales over, the whole year of 2025. There it is. Very interesting. All right, and then I'll go back and clear out Adams. Just do all, and now we're back to everything again. Again, your limitation with using the pivot table filter is that it doesn't really make it very user-friendly when picking multiple items. So let's just say, for instance, I go over here to vendor, and I say, okay, I want to see Alaskan seafood, right? So I click onto that. Now, this is going to be pretty limited on any one of these, but I hit OK on that, and there it is. Now, if I said, well, I want to see 3 different vendors, right? Well, then I could go back to the drop-down. I could hit select multiple items, and then I can go with, let's say, Asian and Big Island. So I'll do those 3, right? Hit OK. There they are. Okay, so I know what it is because I just picked it, but anybody looking at this would say, oh, I have no idea. I mean, I guess it's multiple vendors, have no idea who the vendors are. So that's kind of like the downside to using the pivot table filter. So this leads us now to the next filter, which we call the slicer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull. Well, I'll go ahead and clear these filters first. I'll go ahead and hit all on each one of these. All right, and then I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of pull them all off. All right, so now the slicer. I kind of refer to the slicer as like a visual filter. Go anywhere in the pivot table. You go back up into Analyze, and you'll see something here called Insert Slicer. So we click onto that. All right. Every field that you have, it can be represented by the slicer. So let's go back to looking at, let's say, the zone. All right. So we'll click on the zone here. We'll hit OK. And there are the 5 different territories that we have, right? And we can actually see them here as well, all right? But here's my point with all this. You go in there, we kind of resize this thing a little bit. So we kind of make it a little bit wider. Go over here into the Slicer Tools options. Make that maybe about, we do like 5 wide. That looks like it'll fit. Resize it from the bottom there, right? Then we can move that in over here. And there we go. So now what happens with this is that I can actually just click on to Africa, and there's Africa. Now, I know it's Africa not only because I can see it there, obviously, but also because it's highlighted there. Hold down the Control key and choose Asia and Nordic there, and let go of the Control key, then I see those 3. So you can see, the reason why I'm showing it, this particular one here, is I'm showing you the fact that you can actually use the slicer, and the slicer works just like anything else would as far as working with this filter here. So if I did this, and if I went back to, let's say, I clicked onto Asia here and hit my regular, what we would call the field item filter, right? I can click onto there, and you can see all those being chosen as well. So that works just the same. I could be in here and say, okay, clear the filter, all right? So now it goes back to seeing everybody, and all these light up. So either way you do it, they both work in tandem with each other. Now, if you wanted to get rid of the slicer, all you have to do is just click on to the slicer itself, hit the delete key, all right, and off it goes. Now, let's pick a slicer for a field that's not represented in here that maybe we had used previously in the pivot table filter, right? So we'll go back into Analyze, we'll go back to Insert Slicer, and let's pick the rep. Let's do that one. And let's also pick, how about the vendor? So we'll go find our vendor and do that one, all right? And also, while we're at it, why not, let's say we'll pick the years. Okay, so we'll do that one. So hit OK. So now we get all three of them. So now what I can do is I can go and maybe take my vendor, put that maybe off to the side here, pull it down a little bit, make it a little bit wider. And then, while I'm on there, I can maybe make it two columns wide. It might get a little cut off. If it bothers you, you can make it a little bit wider. But as long as we can read it, partially, that's okay. And then we'll go to the rep here. We'll make that a little bit wider. Give it a few columns. And then go ahead and bring that up like that. Well, maybe we'll make it... there we go. Well, it's a little tight. I think what we can do, we're going to just get an extra column or an extra row here. We'll just do a right click on 5 there, hit insert, kind of pull it down. There we go. All right, so that works there. And then we'll take the years. We can put the years there. All right. And then we'll go ahead and maybe do something like maybe about 3 columns will be good. There we go on that one, right? So whatever, however you want to lay it out. So now what's really interesting about this is I can go ahead and I can click on to, let's say, Alaskan seafood. And that will then show where Alaskan seafood's product has been sold into. That's what you're seeing here. So condiments, confections, and seafood, right? And these are the countries and the territories and so forth. Now, somebody looking at this is going to know exactly what they're looking at because they're going to say, oh, this must be Alaskan seafood sales, right? In other words, for that particular product, right? And these are the years, and these are the reps. Well, and it just so happens now, even now with these visuals, this visual filter, this slicer, we can actually see who did not participate in sales of Alaskan seafood product. So now this is starting to turn into almost like a dashboard in a way. So that's pretty cool. Now to clear out the filter, all you do is you go over here to that little red X, you click it, clears it out just like that. Now here's another thing. Before we were having trouble with the years, because if we just picked one year, that was okay when we were using the the pivot table filter. But now using the slicer, I can click on to 2022. All right, and when somebody were to look at this pivot table, they'll say, oh, okay, I guess this is for the year 2022. These are all the represented vendors, and these are all the reps that participated in there as well. All right, and then you can see that, throughout. So pretty slick stuff there. All right, so now I'm going to get rid of the vendor slicer. So I'll just click onto there, hit the delete, off it goes. Now, what I'd like to do is trim this up a little bit, maybe to a point where I really don't need to have this data broken down by the zone or territory. I just want to see just the countries, all right? But then I'd want to be able to pick multiple countries to be represented, all right? So my whole point of using a slicer in this situation is that I can remove a field from the pivot table, thus making it smaller, all right? And then I can still control what I see. So here's what we're going to do. So I'll click onto the anywhere on the pivot table here. I'll go ahead and I'm going to pull off the zone. So I'm going to take the zone off. So now the zone's gone. So now I see just the countries. Now what I could do just in the meantime, if you want to keep this a little bit more orderly, we can actually kind of point and click on any one of these fields here, right? Or the items, I should say, in this field. Right-click it and tell it that I want to sort it from A to Z, and thus it's all arranged alphabetically, so it's a little bit easier to find and read. Then what we'll do is we'll go back to Analyze. We'll click on to Insert Slicer, all right? And now we're going to go ahead and click on the Zone, just like that. Hit OK. And now there's my zone. I'll put that over here. Give it a few columns there. And there we go. All right, so now I can go back in there and click on to, let's say, Africa. There's my African sales. Control key, click on Asia, let go, and now I've got my African and Asian sales for 2002, and these are the reps that participated, and here are my numbers. Okay, so the last filter I want to talk about is the timeline. So just to make it easier to work with here, I'm just going to get rid of my slicers here. So I'm going to click on each one of them and just hit the delete key. And I think we got one more behind here as well. Nope, that's one going. Okay, so now we're going to put the timeline in. How do we do this? Well, what we do is we click onto the pivot table. We go back to Analyze, and now we got a choice here called Insert Timeline. So we click onto that, and we want the timeline for the order date. So I click onto that, hit OK. There we go. Now I can take that, and what I'll do is I'll insert an extra row here just so I have a little bit more room here. So there we go on that. I can make this, just make it as wide as what I have here for the width. And right now, this thing is set up in months. That means that it goes from 2022 and it gives you all the months, 2023 and so forth. You can also change this from months to quarters. Makes it a little bit easier to work with. So you do something like that. So now what you want to do is you want to focus in on different time periods and display the numbers. So what you can do is you can actually just go to quarter one here and drag it just like that. And now what you're looking at, somebody were to look at this, they say, oh, this must be 2022 for the whole year, for all that. On the other hand, if you just were to click on to just quarter one for 2024, now somebody looking at this would say, oh, this must be for the first quarter of 2024. Or if I just want to see the first half year, I can drag it just like that. Now that's for the half year of 2024. So pretty slick little deal there. So if you wanted to, you want to get pretty creative, you could actually sit down and set up your pivot table, set up your entire pivot table to where you have a timeline. You have a series of different slicers in there and different pivot table filters that you'd have, within here. Combination of all of those would really give you the best case scenario for being able to drill down and see anything you wanted to see at any time just by using any of those filter settings. So hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully this was something that kind of hit home with a lot of you. And hopefully maybe you can start applying this to some of your work back at the job there. So appreciate you watching. Take care.